What's going on, Broncos fans? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson. Today's show is all about the biggest story coming out of Mile High, and it is who is going to be the next head coach for the Broncos. And the coaching search by GM George Paton has been heating up, and we've got the latest 9 candidates he has requested to interview coming up on today's show. I'm going to rank them in order of my favorite to least favorite. So stay tuned for that. And we got a lot of fun stuff coming your way in the show. But before we get into that, if you want Broncos coverage all offseason, then hit that big red button and subscribe today. Join the channel. A lot of people just take the offseason off. Not here at the Broncos Breakdown. So make sure you join the channel if you want the latest news and rumors all offseason about trade speculation, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, all that good stuff. That's happening right here on the channel. So join us today. All right, like I said, I'm going to rank the current candidates that George Paton has requested to interview. I'm going to go from 9 to 1, kind of keep you guys wondering who the top one is. And apparently, there's an early favorite in the clubhouse. But the first one, number 9, is the quarterback coach for the Green Bay Packers. That is Luke Getsy. The Broncos requested to interview him. And because the Packers have a bye this week, they can actually interview Luke Getsy. Remember, you can't interview a coach when they're playing in the playoffs, but they have a bye, then you can do that. Number 8, really quickly, Aaron Glenn. We're going to kind of sprint through these back ones here because I don't see either of these guys, or 7 or 6, being a real shot to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos. But Glenn, the DC for Detroit, the Lions have, I think, exceeded expectations defensively this season. And then Getsy's the quarterback coach for the Packers, who's been working with Aaron Rodgers. So, of course, that's going to bring your name up by association. To me, this feels like a scouting mission. And what do I mean by that? I think right now Paton just has been talking to other GMs and other coaching circles, and they're just getting a sense of maybe some up-and-coming rising coaches, because every single head coach in the NFL was at one point a DC or like a wide receivers coach, and their name just got talked around a bunch. So maybe he's looking at these coordinators and coaches to try and poach them for the next head coach for Denver, to maybe bring them on as the Broncos offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. So that's what I would read into some of these kind of far outlandish names on today's show. But let me know. I want to know this from you guys. Who do you want the Broncos to hire? Sound off in the comment section. This is a two-way street here at the Broncos Breakdown. I'm not just a talking monkey up here. I want to know what you guys have to say down below. And this is the pinned comment on the show. So if a YouTube ad break hits you, scroll on down and use that as an opportunity to put your favorite candidate down below. Number 7 on my list is Jerod Mayo, the linebacker coach for the New England Patriots. This is a name that's very popular in NFL coaching carousel circles. I think he's very well liked. He's very well respected. I've never met Jerod Mayo, but he was a fantastic football player for the Patriots. And I think what you're seeing here is just heard this name a bunch. Let's at least talk to him and see what he's about. And maybe this is a project for future years. But I will chime in with this. A Belichick disciple. I mean, when has that ever not worked well for teams that have tried to get the next Bill Belichick? Usually you have learned that hiring a Patriots coach has not worked well. I could think of Matt Patricia and Joe Judge most recently. But I will chime in with Mike Vrabel is kind of the exception right now. And remember, Vrabel wasn't a coach for very long before he got the gig in Nashville. So it's not a complete slam dunk. Belichick disciples do not work out. But I think it's worth making the joke. Number 6 on my list is Jonathan Gannon. This is the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, a bit of a head-scratcher. Didn't really see this one coming. He's done good things with the Eagles, but he hasn't revolutionized that side of the football in Philadelphia. They've actually taken some step backs this year, but they've taken some step forwards as well. But I think this is a name where Paton has talked to Howie in Philly, and he's like, yeah, this is a pretty good guy. You should give him a shot. You should at least see what he can offer and what his mind is at football-wise. But speaking of offense and defense, you've seen 3 defensive coaches and just 1 offensive coach. What type of head coach would you want the next Broncos head coach to be? You want him to go offense or you want him to go defense? I think, myself included, people can kind of get stuck in the trap of, oh, if they're an offensive coach, they've never looked at defense before. Or if they're a defensive coach, they have no idea how to throw a football. This is the NFL. they know both sides of the football very well. Okay, don't be confused by just because they're a defensive guy, they have no idea how to throw the football more than 10 yards down the field. They know a thing or two about offense as well, or else they would not have gotten to this stage in their career. If you're looking for offense, here's one right now. Kevin O'Connell, it's the OC for the LA Rams. He's been doing that job since 2020, and I think you see a trend here of people that work for Sean McVay get very popular and get offered interviews. Look at Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. He got that job after being the OC for the Rams, which O'Connell has been since 2020. Again, these names right here, those 5 coaching candidates, I think what you're seeing is up-and-coming names, little too early, but let's at least talk to them and learn what they're about, and maybe they'll want to come over and be on our staff in the future. Before we get to our top 4 candidates, guys, head on over to BetUS, our sportsbook partner, chatsports.com/bet. With the promo code Broncos125, hooks you up with a 125% deposit bonus. A lot of great stuff you can bet on over there. The head coaching odds are not out just yet, but they'll be out soon. I'm sure you can bet on the NFL playoffs. And I'll show you my favorite bet right now in the wild card. I'm seeing the Rams 4-point favorites and the Cardinals getting 4 and the over-under at 49.5. I like the Cardinals. They have been one of the best teams on the road this year, and the Rams have been fluttering at times this season, especially at home. They lost in overtime last week to close out the season against the Niners, plus pretty low over-under for 2 West Coast teams. So I like the over, and I like the Cardinals +4, but make your own bets at BetUS and use that link, chatsports.com, along with the promo code Broncos125 to get that 125% deposit bonus. Moving on to number 4. Now we get to the real meat and potatoes of this list. Eric Bienemy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. 1 through 4, we'll spend more time on doing our homework on these guys. So let's look at some of the notes here for Bienemy. He's been the offensive coordinator in Kansas City since 2018. Been a part of that staff since 2013. Now, since he's taken over as OC, the Chiefs' offense has been top 5 scoring in 3 out of those 4 years. And the one time they missed it, they were 6. So maybe you could attribute that to someone named Patrick Mahomes. Maybe not. Maybe it's all Bienemy. But here's what I'll say about Eric Bienemy. I thought he was going to get hired last year during the coaching carousel hiring process, and he was kind of mysteriously passed up. He was one of the biggest names, and he didn't go that far. And I think where you can read the tea leaves a little bit of why did he not get hired. I don't want to speculate, but I will speculate a little bit because it was rather bizarre that he didn't get hired. But here's my question to you. If you hate the Chiefs, then go ahead and type me if you want them to lose in the NFL playoffs. There's no way you want them to win, so let's all root for the Steelers and let's watch KC lose in the playoffs. So give me your me's down below if you cannot stand the Chefs. Number 3 on the list is Nathaniel Hackett, one of the rising names this coaching carousel. He had a little bit of interest last year, getting a lot more interest this year. It's the offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, which he has been doing since 2019. Unlike some of these other offensive gurus and coordinators, he's actually pretty experienced. He's been doing it for quite some time, nearly 2 decades. Now, he is not the play caller. Just like Bienemy, those duties fall to the head coach, Andy Reid, and then Matt LaFleur. I'm a little weary of hiring an offensive coordinator who has not been a play caller because chances are when they become a head coach, they'll want to call the plays. And they may learn the hard way they're not a good play caller. And I don't want that to happen on my team. Also worth noting, Hackett and Bienemy, all these top names are being interviewed by other teams, Hackett especially the Bears and the Jags. Moving on to number 2, it is the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. So Vic GM George Paton put in the request to talk in with someone in Jerry World. Moore is revered as one of the top up-and-coming offensive-minded guys. He's very young at 33, but everyone wants to jump in the bathtub with this guy. They are obsessed with Kellen Moore. I kind of understand because his offense has been awesome, and everyone, like I said, I sound like a broken record, but everyone wants the next young and up-and-coming guy on the offensive side of the football. Here's what I'll say for Broncos fans, and they know this too. When was the last time Denver hired a young up-and-coming guy? and it worked well, right? You can go back to McDaniels or Vance Joseph, and neither hire was really all that fantastic. And I don't want to beat a dead horse or send people down a bad trip on memory lane, but I do think the Broncos are absolutely going to either trade or draft a quarterback this offseason. There's no way. I just don't see them rolling with Drew Lock as QB1. The new head coach is not going to want to hitch his wagon on that roller coaster. And I think more could work very well with either a rookie quarterback or it'd be impossible not to work well with Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Drum roll, please, though. Number 1 on my list, it is Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. This has been the number 1 name in the NFL coaching rumors circle as the top candidate for GM George Paton. He appears to be the early favorite. Now, he's got some experience as a head coach. In Atlanta with the Falcons, which he was the head coach for 5.5 seasons, he finished with a 43-42 record, but most notably in his second season, brought Atlanta to the Super Bowl. And the 28-3 curse, I just don't think he was ever able to get past. In fact, I don't think Atlanta will ever be able to get back on track until everyone that was on that roster and on that coaching staff, even maybe some concessions workers, since that Super Bowl collapse, needs to go until they can get past that. But enough about the Falcons. Here's the thing about Dan Quinn. A lot of people don't like the idea of bringing a former head coach that didn't do very well at his last job, had a bad falling out. I'll show you why in just a moment, why that is not necessarily true. But first, let's check out what Dan Quinn has been doing in Dallas. And you look at the numbers here, and he has been one of the best defensive coordinators in football this year. I'm looking at 2 key stats here. He has driven the points per game down by a whole touchdown, and you look at the sacks, he has dramatically raised that, along with, of course, takeaways, which the Cowboys rank first in the NFL. So he has really improved this Dallas Cowboys defense in a very short time span. And that's why I like Quinn a lot. Okay, I understand that his last couple of years in Atlanta wasn't the best, and he isn't this sexy, offensive-minded guru, but not everyone can be that. And I don't think you hire a head coach because of what they do on paper. This is like you and me, right? This is just human nature. If you're going to hire someone to work for you, you got to like the guy. You got to believe in the guy. You can't just go, well, he's been the OC for the Rams, so he's got to be good. He has to know offense. I think Dan Quinn is very well respected. He's very well liked in coaching circles, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's the next head coach in Denver. In fact, I would say he is the early favorite to be the next head coach in Denver. I also want to show you a couple coaches right here that used to be head coaches before they got famous. So Bill Belichick, of course, we know is the greatest coach in NFL history. He was the head coach for the Cleveland Browns. So he had to learn some mistakes and take his medicine before having success. Tom Coughlin did that in Jacksonville. Tony Dungy did that with the Buccaneers, and then Gary Kubiak, he won a Super Bowl along with Mike Shanahan in Denver. 2 guys that were head coaches elsewhere that didn't have graceful endings. Kubiak in Houston, and Shanahan was a complete flop for the Raiders back in the day. So these guys learned from their mistakes, and they won elsewhere. So just because someone used to be a head coach and they didn't have tremendous success doesn't mean they're going to be a bad head coach again. In fact, a lot of the times they learn from what they did wrong and change that in their second stint. Just like you and me, who doesn't need a second chance every now and then and improves from their mistake? They're no different than us. But do you want Denver to hire Dan Quinn? Let me know. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no if you want good old DQ to be the next head coach for the Denver Broncos in the comment section below. Let's run through the list one more time in case you forgot. Once again, this is the list of candidates that GM George Paton is interviewing in the coming weeks. Has put in a request to interview. Luke Getsy, the quarterback coach in Green Bay. The DC in Detroit with Aaron Glenn. Jerod Mayo, the linebacker coach with the Pats. Jonathan Gannon, the DC with Philly. Kevin O'Connell, the offensive coordinators for the Rams. And then the top 4. Eric Bienemy, the OC for the Chiefs. Nathaniel Hackett, the same position, but in Green Bay, along with Kellen Moore in Dallas, and the Cowboys sweep the top 2 with Dan Quinn landing at number 1 as the leading candidate to be the next head coach, at least in my opinion, for the Denver Broncos. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We just crossed 5,000 subscribers, so thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed already. And if you're new, join the channel because we are putting out fresh Broncos news and rumors content all year long. We'll catch you later here on The Breakdown.